Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Council of One's Babylon 5 review. And today we are discussing the episode Knives. Yeah, it's a short title for a change. And with me today, I've got my friends, my fellow council members, Mountains of Elysium, Fiona Wolf, and Classic Comics. Guys and gals, how are we doing today?
Doing well.
Pretty good, but my job requires me to ingest a whole lot of caffeine because we have extended shifts.
Not a good thing. Not a good thing. And I do apologize for a little bit of a delay, folks. Computer was being a little bit of a butt, but we are here. We are here now. We're all fine. Now, how are you? Sorry, bad Star Wars joke. And yeah, some people may say, this is a filler episode. In Babylon 5, no. In Babylon 5, there is no such thing as a filler episode. There, I have spoken. So, anyways, guys, that all being said, folks, those of you that are in the chat, those of you that might be lurking, those of you who come in late, make sure you smash that like button, share this puppy out with all your friends that are fans of Babylon 5 or just good sci-fi in general. So, and with that, ladies and germs, my fellow council members, I open the floor. Where would you like to begin?
It is fitting that you will die with a song on your lips. God, poor Malari.
Passoliati.
Yeah, the fact that he wants more political power but has no idea what's happening back home, this is a big kick in the... Well, yeah, it's a big kick to the head for him.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And just real quick to the chat, Bureau 31, good afternoon or good evening. Thank you for popping in. Good to see you as always. So, yeah, this episode is dealing with Captain Sheridan, but primarily also dealing with our good friend Londo Malari. And meets an old friend, Urza Jato. And I swear I've seen that actor before in something, but I cannot remember what. So maybe with all our brands together. Huh?
Jacob Carter on Stargate.
That's right. Jacob.
Okay.
Okay, I feel stupid now. Somebody yank my geek card. You can't yank the ambassador's geek card. Yikes. I exercise.
It's called we didn't have enough caffeine.
Oh, I've had plenty of caffeine. I've just been going since, well, I haven't been up super early. I got up around 9:30 this morning. So, but yeah, thank you. Whoever the Mountains or Classic, one of the other fellows on the thing, thank you for reminding me of who the actor was who played in Stargate SG-1. So, and it was nice to have a nice scene with a nice jovial scene with Londo and Veer where they're trying to sing badly. Although I'll say they weren't singing particularly badly. They were actually singing pretty well. Who knew Pierre Jurassic and Stephen First could sing so well?
Yeah, I was about to say they can really hold a tune.
Yes, they can harmonize very well. So,
and I was also impressed with the size of Londo's alcohol vault. That was nearly a foot thick of steel.
Yeah.
Wowzers.
Bravari goes for a pretty hefty price, I guess.
Apparently.
Like that.
Or maybe well-aged Bavari, yes.
Yes. Although it looks like just really good fruit punch. just really good non-alcoholic wine. Who knows? We don't know. We don't know if Babylon the set of Babylon 5 was a dry set or a wet set. But we know sometimes it was a wet and wild set. Okay, sorry.
Especially with the kind of jokes that Claudia Christian and the lady who played Talia. I'm trying to remember his names. It's like
Patricia Tallman. Oh,
yes.
no, wait. She played Lita.
Lita. Yes.
And Andrea
Winters? Was that it? Andrea Winters?
Yeah.
No, you're thinking Talia Winters. I'm thinking.
Yeah, okay. Andrea something.
Yeah,
apparently Tallman and Christian got up to shenanigans behind the scene, and they had to usually break them apart. It's like, stop making everyone laugh. Oops.
And the one thing about this episode that I like is we get a good deep dive into some of the Centauri culture. That was one thing I really liked. That they had this whole fighting club in Centauri Fight Club. The first rule of Centauri Fight Club is you don't talk about Centauri Fight Club. The second rule is you don't talk about Centauri Knife Fighting Club. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it seems to have been, I think, kind of modeled after dueling societies. I forget what period and
Prussian
history.
one, I think, before World War. I was looking. I think it was like the Prussian dueling societies. A lot of German officers used to have dueling scars.
Like maybe like the 1700s, 1800s, something like
I
that.
know, even around World War One.
Okay.
Even somewhat up to World War Two.
Oh, okay.
Well, you could tell that Londo's buddy Ursa is getting very tired of what's happening in his own homeworld, and he was very much in the former emperor's side of things.
Yeah, Turhan. Yeah, I would agree. And real quick to the chat, Superior Hero Reviews. Hello again, my friend, and also LDG Pixels saying hello again to you again. Gentlemen, thank you for being here, as always. I know y'all can't see me very well. I'm sorry. I'm just going to off camera.
We still can't see you. You're like in the shadows.
Literally. Yeah, I'm pulling a Morden tonight. This is my second stream of the day, but that's okay. We're here to talk about Babylon 5, not how many streams I'm doing. So, but honestly, yeah, this episode and everything. Something else I liked about it was we got a little bit of world building for the station. We got the Babylon Triangle.
Yeah.
So
it's another part of Gray Sector that's strange. Apparently, that's like the center of all the weirdness on the station is Gray Sector.
Yes. So, but guys, what about this episode do you want to dig into and everything? We've kind of hit a few points and everything. What do you want to talk about?
Well, with the Malari story, I think it kind of gives us a look at how Londo has changed as far as him becoming more corrupt, basically. And he's kind of trying to, I don't know, kind of toe some kind of a line where he's not as bad as Rifa or some of the other people where he's just completely without morals. But it also shows how far he's gone because he's kind of
going with the flow.
Right. Yeah.
I found it interesting how Londo was really bombastic when he was talking about their glory. We should go back to the stars. We should be what we were. But when it comes to how, he really changes when he talks about the Narn, especially those Tristam Narns. You can really see in him, it's not what he wants. He doesn't like how they're doing it. He just wants them to be great. But how they're acting, even him, he's going, no, that's... I know it doesn't really shine for him because he still goes along with the nasty actions to a point. But it is a good turning point and a good something in his favor that's not something he wanted. He's not completely corrupt and scummy like Rifa.
And he would have to be, because if he was as bad as Rifa, we would not care about him or like him at all and would probably want him to be dead.
Yes, very true.
And this is also kind of the first time, I think, where we see a real rift between him and Rifa, where they have serious disagreements on the steps that are being taken.
Yeah, I would agree with that because honestly, and we've kind of touched on this previously, this episode is really a eye-opener for Londo because he finally realizes just how bad things are going back on home world, back on Centauri Prime. And up until now, he's kind of he's been so involved with everything else that's been going on with the Shadows and with Morden and all this other stuff and all the little schemes that he's hatched with them that he really hasn't paid a whole lot of attention to what's been going on Homeworld. And in this episode, it takes the actions and unfortunately the death of Urza Jado is one of his closest friends for him to finally wake up and realize, holy crap, things are going sideways back on Homeworld.
Then why is it that poor Sheridan constantly gets all these weird things going in his head? Gosh, this thing. he gets little messages from Galen later. He's in attunement with certain kinds of things in the universe because of his messing with Kosh. Like, oh great. Poor
Yeah.
Sheridan.
Yeah, very true. Well, and this episode, of course, will be a lead up, and it also harkens back to season 1 and everything, where of Babylon Squared, and then of course it's kind of reminding us, oh yeah, Sector 14's still out there. So eventually, season 3 will get War Without End or anything that two-parter, and I think honestly, this whole this was a nice little thing and everything to play with Sheridan's head a little bit. But the thing that I like is it kind of subverts expectations, because anytime you have an episode where you got a commanding officer or one of the main characters that gets something that goes in their head and starts monkeying around with it, it eventually goes very, very badly. But in this case, Sheridan has wherewithal to realize, okay, this thing is trying to communicate with me. And I thought that was actually a very, very nice touch. But what do you all think?
Yeah. I did like his perception, and maybe that's why he's more attuned to Kosh, because he was able to guess what that creature was looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And he had, I suppose, the wherewithal to not freak out and, well, what's going on? He went to, what I liked was he went to Franklin when something was going wrong. He didn't try and hide it. He said, yeah, that's what I saw. This is up. So he knows himself. In some ways, if the Inquisitor asked, who are you? He could give him an answer.
In manner of speaking, yes.
And you wonder if the sort of the teachings that Kosh has been, that he has been receiving from Kosh, if not kind of, I don't know, opened his mind in a way that makes him more receptive to this sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think y'all are hitting on something very important here, because up until now, Kosh has not really reached out to other members of the crew. He didn't really do so with Sinclair in season 1. And Sheridan was the one that took the initiative here and said, hey, I want to know more about you, and hopefully and finally taking an interest, and Kosh takes an interest in someone else outside of his own people. I mean, yeah, he had that interrogation or whatever you want to call it with the vicar and Talia, and that'll pay off and everything in a couple episodes if I remember correctly. And honestly, I think there is something to the relationship between Sheridan and Kosh, because I wish we had more scenes with them. I wish we had gotten more of those lessons or anything. I know we got the one I think a couple episodes ago with a moment of perfect beauty, but I would have loved to see maybe a few more of those as well. But
yeah, I would like to have seen more of that, of him and of Kosh sort of teaching him and him learning. I think that would have been good to see.
I agree. And just to the chat, Robert Rose Jr., welcome. Good to see you, bud. And yeah, every Friday afternoon we're doing this. So they're all on the playlist over on my channel and everything. So if you want to catch up on what I've done thus far with B5 and everything, it's all cataloged in there. So, but honestly, the one of the plot point about this episode and everything, it ties back more to Londo. We can go some more back into Sheridan and Kosh when Sheridan's plot line and everything in the episode. With this episode for Londo, the thing that I really appreciated was the heartache for him, having to fight Urza, and he did not want to. But in the end, when he was sitting there in his quarters with Veer and saying, anyone who was part of the Prima Corda, if I'm not saying that right, I think I am.
Poro Credo, wasn't that it?
Porto Credo. Yeah, thank you, Classic. Appreciate that. Yeah,
I'm not sure. I think that's it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And he's like, Urza was already disgraced. He was already ruined. But now that he's dead, his house, everybody that's a part of his house, is now House Malari now, and they're safe. At least to a point, they will be. And that for me was a great moment for Londo. And I think Peter Jurassic did a great job of really driving home that sorrow and that melancholy of the fact that he had to kill a friend, but that the friend's death wasn't completely without reason. He sacrificed his life to save his house and his family. So, and all the implications that'll have for Londo going down the road.
Oh, sorry.
You go ahead.
I did like that Londo once, when he said, "I take it in the spirit you gave."
Mm-hmm.
I think on rewatching, I realized at that point Londo knew that he was going to kill, but they had to make it look good.
Mm-hmm.
Because when it ended and he told Veer, yeah, like I had to kill him, otherwise his family would have been in disgrace and his family would have suffered. I had to kill him.
I wonder.
Sorry.
I was going to say, I wondered with that, and some other times throughout the series where Londo takes, kind of risks with his safety. How much of this he does with the thought that, well, I've seen the future and I know I'm going to live to a ripe old age, so I know I'm not going to die here, and that's why he's willing to do it. And
I suppose also it's the question he asked to Seer, Emperor Turan's wife, can I avoid it? He also believes that if what he sees is true, he's going to live no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
But if he dies doing the right thing, he can avoid the horror that he sees ahead of him. So I think Londo does take those risks.
Yeah, that could be it too.
And just as a brief aside, I often kind of wondered, well, why Londo killed a man in the station. And I think it was in an earlier episode, they said if it's alien law and if it's legal in Centauri law, you can do whatever you want, and the human government or the station cannot interfere, even to killing.
Well, yeah, because it's almost like a form of the Prime Directive from Star Trek in a manner of speaking, where you can't necessarily interfere with they couldn't interfere in normal relations within or the laws and traditions of a culture or an alien race. Anything. So I think that was kind of a wink and a nod, but it was a good wink and a nod to something within Star Trek lore. So, because if you realize you never see Sheridan, you never see Ivanova, you never see Garibaldi in any of those dealings, in any of the scenes with Londo and Urza and Vera and everybody else.
Londo kills someone on the station and security never shows up.
Yeah, exactly. Now, of course, when Sheridan shoots his PPG in his quarters at that phantasm of that Grey lore, obviously it picks up because it's weapons fire. But it's a little bit different, and I'm wondering how many hurdles Urza had to go through to get those swords and everything brought through customs or anything. Of course, they could have got Urza seemed like a guy that would be fairly reasonable, and he would explain to station's security and everything, these are a gift, they're not necessarily lethal, and they may be like, well, can we test them and what have you? And you'd be like, yeah, sure, go ahead, test them, no problem. Because Urza didn't present himself as like the atypical Centauri who was offended by everything. He seemed like he'd be fairly diplomatic about it.
Yeah, because I think. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Elysium. Go ahead.
No, because I do remember in A Parliament of Dreams, when Garibaldi told the Drazi, he took a little knife off and said, "If you want it back before you leave, you can go out. I'll stick it outside the station. If you can hold your breath long enough, you can have it."
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they are pretty strict on the weapons. I think was it Robert Rose Jr. mentioned, was it a Crusade? And in that it was even was it Nafi Jaffe? I can't remember her name offhand. The thief,
Yeah.
and all the little weapons she had, he would leave her, take none of them on board. So to get it on board, there must have been something either diplomatic or he must be a better smuggler than we give him credit for.
Darina Nafil, I think.
Arena Nafi, that's it.
Yep.
You would think with the war going on and with all the hostilities between the Narn and the Centauri, they'd crack down even more on those respective groups bringing weapons onto the station.
Yeah, but as I said, with Urza's position and his disposition, his personality, I don't think he would try and be a ramrod or big and bombastic about it. He would have probably tried to work within the rules as much as he could and everything. And of course, for the story, those swords need to be there. And I do want to say one thing about those swords. Was I the only one who got the very strong style aesthetic of a Roman gladius?
I thought so too. They looked Roman or certainly not the fencing style, like the fencing weapons of like European weapons. They looked much older.
Yeah, because it's a short sword. It's everything, and it reminds me of a sword like the swords we see in like Gladiator with Russell Crowe and everything. It reminds me of something that the Roman army would use. And I thought that was a really interesting mix of cultures because we've talked about this previously with B5. 1 second. Okay, and Fiona Wolf, everything. I got your message or anything. And I understand.
We're cold. But yeah, poor Sheridan, just because he's like a cipher of sorts, he gets put into the deep end because he will go after something that's unusual and try to piece it together instead of like shoot first and ask questions later, even though he's known as Nuke 'em all Sheridan.
If you're okay with it, Fiona, I'm going to put this in the public chat so everybody can see it because this is some good points and everything. We'll touch on this and everything, but as always, thank you for being here, ma'am.
Oh yeah,
always a
see you
pleasure.
guys later.
All right,
have a good day.
Have a good night, Fiona. Talk to you later.
See ya.
I was just wondering, showing how we saw how good Londo was with the sword. Why couldn't he kill those cockroaches with the sword in the later episodes?
Yeah, they're quick.
Oh, that's true.
And folks, just so you'll know and everything, the comment I put in the chat and everything is something Fiona sent to us. And like I said, we can touch on it and everything in a little bit and everything once we come back around to Sheridan and Kosh and all that. But yeah, I'll say this. It does not look like they use stun doubles. It looks like Jurassic and the other actor, they did their own fight work or the fighting and everything in that scene. Because you had a distant shot, but it still looked, now unless the prosthetics or anything that the stunt people were using were modeled after Jurassic and the other actor. But I will say the fight choreography for that scene, well, it wasn't super heavy extreme because these are older Centauri. They're not young, and they're not Jedi. This is not Star Wars. But I did appreciate the fact that it looked like the two actors did their own fighting, did their own stunt work. And honestly, well, it wasn't big and extravagant. It got the point across, and that's something that I appreciated. So, but fellas, what do y'all think?
Yeah, I thought they did a decent job with the choreography, and yeah, I think you're right. It was the actors for the most part.
Yeah, I think they did good.
Well, and it had a certain intensity. It had a ferocity to it, but at the same time, it was very personal. These were two old friends who were fighting one another, and they had been backed into a corner. They didn't want to necessarily fight each other, but they did because there was no other way for Urza's family to be saved. And oftentimes there's an old saying, and both of you probably know it. You never really know someone until you fight them. And considering the fact that they both have a history in the Prima Corta, or Cora Prito, excuse me. I'm sorry, I'm going to get that wrong through the rest of the whole dang stream. But honestly, I really dug the fight because it felt personal. It had weight. It wasn't frivolous. And I love the fact that we have this idea that it kind of expands upon the fact that the Centauri have a sense of honor even when they fight.
I think it could be more these two, that Londo and Urza, they're two honorable people.
Yes.
And it's sad that when you look at how Centauri culture has fallen, Vir and Urza, two of the best Centauri we meet,
Yes.
are the ones who are vilified, who are mocked.
Yeah.
And you wonder, there must be many more of those. It's just a society destroys
tradition.
Yep. It ruins it for many.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a deeply corrupt society. It really is decadent.
And I think, and it's jumping a small bit ahead, the lady in the beginning, the Centauri nanny, that's, I believe, Rifa's daughter or his niece.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Londo is decent. It does show that even his worst enemies, Londo will take care of. And he is a good, despite what he does, he's many shades of grey and some very dark grey. But Londo is a good man at heart.
Yes. Well, and I talked about this in the video I did back last year for Londo specifically. And the thing about Londo is he could have made so many different turns and choices. But at the same time, would his story arc been as interesting? Would he have been as captivating a character had he just been very vanilla?
Obviously, no, he wouldn't have.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the reasons why we love this show so much is because the characters are not archetype. Although there are a few archetypes in this series, they're not. It's not prevalent. These characters all have shades of gray to them, and particularly with Londo, he does some very noble things. At the same time, he does some very duplicitous and underhanded things. And he realizes that the choices he's made have not always been the right ones. And Veer even points that out. And Veer says, there are rare times I am proud to be your attaché. And today is one of those times.
Yes.
And yeah, I'll bring these comments up. Easton Brookholder. Traditional values must be attacked to let corrupt actions happen. Yeah, that's true. And Rifa is almost an embodiment of that entire idea right there. Rifa is, in a lot of ways, the embodiment of the corruption of the Centauri society and Centauri politics and everything else across the board. Because you get the idea that once upon a time, Centauri politics and politicians might have been more noble, may have been not altogether altruistic, but they might have the Centaurum and the emperors and what have you were more even-handed. They weren't quite as underhanded as they are now.
And just as an aside, I wonder, should I take offense when Carthage is called an infantile puppet? Speaking as how they're got so far.
You could, if you so choose, Elysium, you could. But I think, honestly, that's not necessarily a bad descriptor for Cartagia. He is an infantile puppet who thinks himself a god. I'm sorry. To quote a great 80s movie, your body's cashing checks your mouth can't cash. I think that's how this quote goes.
I think it was another body part, but yeah.
Oh, your ass is
Your mouth
Writing
is
check-
writing checks your
ass
your
can't
body
ca-
can catch, or something like
your
that.
ass.
Yes.
The quote is your mouth is writing checks that your ass can't cash, and it's from Top Gun, the first one, obviously. Because so far we've only had one. Thanks a lot, you damn stinking dirty virus. Shut down my theaters. I'm gonna bust somebody's head, but that's another conversation for another time. And Robert Rose, he brings up an interesting point here as well. Whoever knew Walter Koenig could play such a great bad guy? Yeah.
Oh.
And I'm trying to remember. Do we see Bester again at any point during this season? Because we're coming up on the end. I'm on my second to last disc. I don't know how you fellas and everybody else has been watching it, but I think we've got roughly 6 more episodes. Well, 5 now in the season.
I don't remember. I'll try and look it up here and see.
I'm thinking not, because the episode with Lita and Talia, Bester doesn't make an appearance. I don't think. I don't think he pops up again until season 3.
Actually, just as Classic is checking that, speaking of the nobility of the Centauri, there is the story Londo tells that one of the Emperor's daughters saw the first flower coming up in the snow and put a guard to watch it. And for 200 years, or something, was it 200 or 300 years, a guard stood at that spot long after the flower had died, because that was their duty, and it was noble to defend, to follow the laws. So there is nobility within the Centauri. They're not a completely lost people. It's just corrupt people like Rifa and decadence has ruined that society that doesn't allow good men like Veer or Urza to prosper. Although I think Urza probably was not such a great guy when he was younger. He was into the we are great, we are glorious. And then something opened his eyes. His actions at that battle he mentioned.
Gorosh, yeah, the Battle of Gorosh.
And he remembers then that's not who we are, not who we should be. And it's a shame that people like him, that the Centauri are not made of people like him.
Yeah, very true. Well, it very much feeds into this whole idea of fear of change and fear of the future. And unfortunately, the Centauri people have become kind of stuck. And they fear the future, and they want to return to a better time in their history. But unfortunately, they put the wrong people in charge to see that vision brought to fruition. Because you've got people like Grifa, you've got people like Cartagia, and unfortunately, to a certain degree, you've got people like Londo that are trying to shape the future of the Centauri race. And it's not that pretty. They are doing a lot of dirty dealings. They are messing with things that are beyond their comprehension in terms of the shadows. And it's going to, unfortunately, be a heavy price that they're going to have to pay down the road. But kind of going back to Sheridan with his little story arc, the fact that this creature, whatever this creature was, or this consciousness, whatever it was, and I want to do a little theorizing here, fellas. This thing, Kate, was stuck in Sector 14 near that time rift, or whatever, and everything, whatever you want to call it. Do you think that thing was from the past or the future?
I don't know. I just kind of thought it was something that kind of lives in some other dimension. They basically kind of outside of our time flow was kind of what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
That's honestly how I felt, but it would not be beyond the being past or future, because many species, like the Vorlons, become energy.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to have the Vorlons' ability. They could, I thought, we'll say maybe intellectually, maybe as a developmental stage, they were at the same, that creature was at the same level. and possibly like, this thing is E equals MC squared. Well, we are matter. In his universe, it's energy.
Yeah, and that's entirely a possibility as well. The thing I thought is maybe this thing was from the future, or well, maybe this thing was. The thing I was thinking is maybe it was a spirit of a creature that got stuck, or maybe it was even, who knows? Maybe it was even the spirit of Zathras. The one that died or was going to die in the past. Although that doesn't necessarily link up. I mean, this is just theorizing and everything at this point. But go ahead, Elysium.
No, it's actually as it who was it? The Robert Rose I mentioned was a crusade earlier, and in one of those episodes, there are people who died in the past who body snatch basically, and so maybe it's from a similar, not the same, but similar origin, that some species became energy from the past, somebody's spirit becoming trapped with the way space has warped.
Yeah.
And becomes.
And that's entirely possible too. I think that's not a bad theory, Elysium. So, and it would actually be there would be lore that had been established in B5 that was carried over into Crusade. So, yeah, but go ahead, Classic.
I was just going to say I'm looking at the episodes, and I don't think Bester comes back till early in the 4th season.
Wow, is it really that long?
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah, because okay. Well, if he pops up, and we'll talk about him when he does. So, well, fellas, anything else about this episode that you want to touch upon? Anything that we might have missed and everything that you want to discuss?
I was just going to mention, I think we almost touched on it there, but Veer's speech to Londo, that
yes,
Harry mourned for the golden days when their power was like unto the gods. It's counterproductive. Yeah. Why make history if you fail to learn from it?
Yeah, very true. Yeah, and that I'll say this for Steven first. I'm sorry that he's gone, but I'm glad that we have him. I'm glad we have his portrayal of Veer in this series, because Veer was always a favorite character of mine. I think always was. He was like I hate to put it this way. He was like a walking conscience, but at the same time, he had his own thoughts. He had his own ideas. He had his own principles and everything. And that's the one thing about Veer that I really appreciate and I really admire. Particularly in the previous episode, when he's sitting there in the Zocalo with Morden. And he quite literally looks into the face of the devil and smiles and waves. That takes backbone. That takes guts. And that was one of the really endearing qualities about Veer that I really appreciated in his character, was the fact that this was a guy, even though he might have been perceived as cowardly or spineless, he was fearless, even in the face of the devil. And that's no small thing.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Elysium.
I was saying it was fearless when he mattered. He did similar when he faced down the techno mages, and they sent the demon towards him, and he just stopped and said, "No." When he worked for Londo, someone like Londo, as long as I have, this doesn't bother you.
Exactly. Well, and it's an evolution of his character and everything, because in season 1 he's kind of shiftless, he's kind of spineless in a manner of speaking, and here in season 2 he really starts to bare his teeth, and as I said, smile and wave in the face of the devil. And you have to admire that type of courage. You really do. And not to mention, as we know, he'll eventually go on to be the emperor of the Centauri Republic after Londo and everything. And I imagine he carried a lot of those traits on with him through his reign. And I think that's something that I think that's something we all can take away from Veer.
Yes. And also when he becomes Abraham Lincoln in the next season.
Yes, when he's trying to save the Narn. Yeah, I love that. That's one particular plot point I love about Veer. Everything is he takes on a persona. So
I think Veer is one of those characters, actually with Londo and Trakar, that say this show couldn't be remade.
No.
In its form, you could not keep the same characters. It has to be something, if they ever return to the universe, they need to leave it as it is, because those guys were just, for me, it was almost perfection. They were the roles.
Mm-hmm. And Bureau 31, the best returns in season 3, episode 6, where the Alliance of Light uses Minbari telepath.
Okay. Yeah, he's right. I'm sorry,
I
overlooked that one.
No, hey, this is a big series. It's got a lot of episodes, so you're gonna miss you're sometimes gonna miss things. Hey, I've done it. So anyway, but yeah, I think particularly in days like now, I think we can all take a lesson from future Emperor Veer Kodo. And when the devil stares you in the face, or the mob stares you in the face, you just smile and wave back and show them that you're not afraid. And I think that is something inherently noble about Veer. And it's something we all can take to heart. So, anyway. Well, guys, I think we've pretty well broken this puppy down and everything, unless there's something, like I said, if I've missed something, we can discuss, or if you want, if it's all right with you, we'll go ahead and we'll start wrapping up here.
I don't think I have anything more.
Okay. Alicia, what about you, bud?
No, just the small point where Sheridan calls Franklin, says, "You're just like your father." And
yeah,
Franklin is just thrilled. Yeah, I am.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
Almost forgot. I kind of chuckled at that because I kind of forgot that line and everything, that scene. He's like, you're just like your dad or your father. He's like, thank you. Considering the kind of the tumultuous relationship that Franklin had with his father, and the fact that they were actually able to reconcile before his dad left the station, honestly, I think that was a nice little closure point, because we don't see his father again in the series. So I think that was a nice little closure point for that particular character arc. Saying, hey, you're just like your dad, and that's not a bad thing. I'm glad to say I'm very much like my father. Although in some ways I'm much like my grandmother as well. But that's a conversation for another time. And it's been a while and everything, but rest in peace, Jerry Doyle, Chief Garibaldi. Won't see another one like his kind, I imagine, for a long, long time. So, well, folks, that all being said, I hope you all enjoyed this stream today. As always, hit that like button and share this out. And if you enjoyed it, if there's anything you missed and everything, for those of you that'll catch us on the replay, leave your comments down below and everything, because YouTube's being a little wacky again, and they're bumping, they're giving a bump to streams and videos that gets lots of comments. So make sure you comment down below with anything, with your thoughts about anything that we said or elaboration upon and what have you. So, and of course, we'll be back next week, 2:30 Central Time, and everything, with another Council of Ones and everything. And we'll be covering the next episode. I can't remember the name of the next episode off the top of my head, but it'll be fun regardless. Just a quick plug and everything. I will be over on Superior Hero Reviews channel later this evening at 6 p.m. Central Time, where we're going to be doing a review and discussion of the animated film Batman Hush. So be sure to tune in for that. And of course, I will be bringing, I have released part 4 of my fan fiction. Part 5 will be out next week, as promised, and everything is coming. I've got it all written out. I've just got to record it and then put together my images and everything, and get that going. So, Elysium Classic, do you have anything that you want to plug for your channels and everything? Classic, I did see that you did a review back, I think it was last week, of Batman Catwoman.
Mm-hmm.
And you weren't too thrilled, and I understand what you're saying and everything. I've heard of the writer that you were talking about. So, but have you got anything else coming up in the near future that you wanna let everybody know about?
Well, I just put a review for the latest issue of Iron Man up yesterday,
Okay.
and I'll be putting up a review of Mandalorian here probably tomorrow.
Okay. Oh, Bureau 31, yeah, the Marcab. Confessions and Lamentations. That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the next one.
Yeah, that's a heavy one. That's a hard one. Thank you, Bureau 1, for the heads up. I appreciate it very much. So
That small bit of foreshadowing in this one where Franklin says, I have a good friend who's a doctor.
yeah, exactly.
Right.
So you'd say that Marcab that bashed his brains in got lucky. So anyway. But yeah, folks, I think that's going to be it for today. Elysium, I am sorry. Did you have anything for your channel you wanted to plug? Anything that you're working on before we go?
Just working on a few videos in the background, but nothing coming up at the moment.
Okay. Fair enough. So, well, folks, this is number 2 of the triple header. I hope to see you all there tonight over on Superior Hero Reviews channel or anything. And also, I did do my watch party review for the latest episode of Mandalorian, The Believer. That is up if you want to go check out the replay on that. I will most likely definitely be doing a watch party review for that next week for the season 2 finale. And well, as our friend Dawson over at Neri Many Ways likes to say, it's probably gonna be a banger. And I will give you all just a little bit of a tease. Part 5 of Rehu is also going to be a banger. So just keep your eyes and ears open for that. I'll be tweeting it out and all that other stuff. So, but that all being said, folks, you all have a great afternoon or a great evening. Merry Christmas. And until next time, these are the ambassadors signing off.